The air smelled of blood, smoke, and gunpowder. The battlefield was never silent, not even at night. Even when the fighting paused, the land groaned, distant artillery rumbling like a storm, wounded men screaming out for help, the sharp cracks of rifles echoing across the broken earth. I had been in this war for only 2 weeks, but it already felt like years. Every step through the mud was heavy, every breath was thick with fear. I was the youngest in my squad, the rookie, the one who still flinched at every explosion. And my squad leader, Captain Rylan, made sure I never forgot it. He was a man carved out of iron. Broad shoulders, sharp eyes that cut like knives, and a voice that carried enough weight to silence even the toughest veterans. Nobody dared defy him. To disobey Rylan was to court death, whether from the enemy's bullets or from his own rage. But that night, I made the mistake that changed everything. We had been ordered to advance into a ruined village, one that was little more than shattered buildings and ash. Shadows moved between the collapsed walls, and every sound felt like a threat. My heart pounded so hard I could barely hear anything else. The squad crept forward, rifles raised, every pair of boots sinking into the wet earth. "Rookie, cover the left flank," Rylan ordered, his growl low but firm. His dark eyes flicked toward me for only a second before he turned away, trusting, or rather, expecting, that I would obey. I swallowed hard, nodding. My hands shook as I raised my rifle and took position near the broken remains of a stone wall. I kept my eyes on the left, watching the shadows, trying to be sharp, alert, disciplined. But then I saw movement. A shape, quick, darting between the rubble. My finger hovered over the trigger. Was it the enemy? Or just another soldier from our side? My mind screamed at me to decide. I froze. "Fire, damn it," one of the squad mates hissed. I didn't. My hesitation lasted no more than 3 seconds, but 3 seconds on the battlefield is the difference between life and death. The figure lunged forward. A shot rang out, but it wasn't mine. It was Rylan's. His bullet struck the enemy soldier clean in the chest, dropping him instantly. "Idiot!" Rylan's voice cut through the chaos like a whip. He stormed toward me, his glare burning hotter than the gunfire around us. "You hesitated. You could have gotten us all killed." Heat rushed to my face. My chest ached with shame. I tried to speak, tried to explain that I wasn't sure, that I didn't want to shoot the wrong person. But my words died in my throat. Rylan didn't give me the chance anyway. He grabbed me by the collar, yanking me so close I could see the rage in his eyes. His voice was low, deadly calm, but filled with fury. "On this field, you follow orders without question. You shoot without hesitation. You freeze again and I'll leave you for the crows." The other men glanced our way but quickly looked away. No one dared interfere. No one ever interfered when Rylan was angry. The battle pressed on. More enemies emerged from the ruins, and we fought hard to push them back. My arms ached from firing my rifle, my ears rang with the endless blasts of gunfire, and my legs trembled from running, ducking, surviving. But none of that weighed heavier on me than Rylan's glare, sharp and cold, every time his eyes met mine. By the time the fighting slowed and the order to retreat was given, I felt hollow inside. We had taken losses. A couple of men were carried back bleeding, one never opened his eyes again. I knew, I couldn't stop thinking, that maybe if I had fired faster, if I hadn't frozen, we wouldn't have been hit so hard. Back at camp, the squad settled into grim silence. Some cleaned their weapons. Others sat staring into the fire, trying to push away the horrors of the day. I sat alone, hands clenched, shame burning in my chest. Then I felt it. A presence behind me. Heavy boots stopping just inches away. Rylan. His shadow stretched long against the firelight, tall and unyielding. He didn't speak at first. Just stood there, arms crossed, watching me like a wolf deciding whether to tear into its prey. Finally, he crouched low, his face close to mine, his voice low enough that only I could hear. "You think today was bad?" he murmured, his tone rough, dark. "That hesitation of yours cost us men. If I hadn't stepped in, you'd be lying dead in the dirt with them." I opened my mouth, desperate to defend myself, but his glare silenced me instantly. "No excuses," he growled. You disobeyed. And in my squad, disobedience is punished. My heart slammed against my ribs. His words weren't shouted. They were calm, cold, even measured, but that only made them more terrifying. He leaned closer, so close that I felt the heat of his breath against my ear. His next words sent a chill racing down my spine. Later tonight, rookie, Rylan whispered, his voice like a dangerous promise. You'll come to my tent. Alone. And you'll learn what happens when you fail me. He stood and walked away without another word, leaving me trembling in the firelight, caught between fear, shame, and something I couldn't yet name. That night, as the camp grew quiet and the fire burned low, I couldn't stop replaying his words in my head. Every growl, every glare, every ounce of fury in his voice. The battlefield had been terrifying, but what waited for me in his tent felt even more dangerous. I didn't know if I would survive the night, but part of me knew I wouldn't dare disobey him again. The night was colder than usual. The campfire had burned low, sending shadows crawling across the tents like restless spirits. Most of the men were asleep, their snores blending with the faint crackle of embers. I sat awake, staring at my hands. They wouldn't stop trembling. I knew what was coming. Rylan's words repeated in my mind, sharp and heavy. Later tonight. My tent. Alone. Every part of me wanted to run, to disappear into the darkness and never come back. But I couldn't. Not because of duty, not even because of fear of punishment. It was something heavier, something that rooted me to the spot. Maybe pride. Maybe shame. Or maybe the way his voice had sunk so deep inside me, making it impossible to disobey. Finally, when the camp had fallen silent, I rose. Each step toward his tent was slow, heavy, like I was walking to the gallows. The flap of his tent was closed, a faint light flickering from a lantern inside. I stood there, frozen, my hand hovering over the fabric. My chest pounded so loud it drowned out everything else. Get in, came his voice from inside. Steady. As if he had known I was standing there all along. I swallowed hard, pushed the flap open and stepped in. The tent was simple, maps scattered across a low table, weapons stacked neatly in one corner, the lantern's glow throwing long shadows across the canvas walls. Rylan stood with his back to me, broad shoulders outlined in the dim light. He didn't turn right away. When he finally faced me, his eyes locked onto mine. Dark, sharp, unreadable. A silence stretched between us, heavy as chains. Close it, he ordered. I obeyed, letting the flap fall shut behind me. Now it was just the two of us, sealed away from the rest of the world. Rylan stepped closer, each movement slow and deliberate, like a predator circling prey. You think you can hesitate out there? Question me? His voice was calm but dangerous, every word like a blade against my skin. I didn't mean. Silence. The word cracked like a whip. My throat closed instantly. He circled me once, then stopped directly in front of me. His hand shot out, gripping my chin, forcing my head up so I couldn't look away. His touch was rough, firm, holding me in place. You froze. You made me waste a bullet. You nearly got us all killed. His eyes burned into mine. And now you're going to pay for it. My breath caught. Fear flooded me, but beneath it, something else stirred. Confusion. An ache I didn't understand. Rylan pushed me back suddenly, slamming me against the central pole of the tent. The shock rattled through my body. His forearm pressed against my chest, pinning me, while his other hand gripped my wrist hard enough to hurt. You don't move unless I tell you to. You don't speak unless I allow it. Understand? I nodded quickly, though my body trembled. Say it. Yes, sir. The words tumbled out, shaky but obedient. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Approval, maybe, or hunger. I couldn't tell. The punishment began harsh. He shoved me down to my knees, his grip unrelenting, his voice commanding. Every order came with the weight of authority I couldn't ignore. He pushed, pulled, dominated, stripping away my pride piece by piece until all that was left was raw, exposed weakness. I resisted at first. My body fought back instinctively, jerking against his hold, teeth gritted. But the harder I resisted, the more forceful he became. His growls vibrated through me, low and primal, shaking me deeper than any threat on the battlefield ever had. And then it happened. He leaned close, his breath hot against my ear, his voice a growl that sent fire racing down my spine. "Scream for me," he ordered. His tone was rough, dangerous, filled with an intensity that left no room for doubt. "Or I'll pound you harder." The words tore through me. I should have been terrified, and I was. But that fear twisted into something else, something darker, hotter. My body reacted before my mind could catch up. My breath hitched, my skin burned, and a shiver of want shot through me. Everything shifted in that moment. What had begun as punishment, the rough handling, the growls, the threats, blurred into something else entirely. The air between us changed, thick with heat, with hunger neither of us could deny anymore. His hands that had pinned me in place now gripped me with something almost desperate. His mouth, once full of cruel commands, hovered dangerously close to mine. I should have pulled away. I should have fought harder. But I didn't. I couldn't. Instead, I leaned into it. Into him. The tension snapped like a taut string breaking, and suddenly we weren't squad leader and rookie anymore. We were just two men caught in a storm of fire and want, crossing a line that could never be uncrossed. The hours that followed blurred. His dominance never faded. He was still harsh, still commanding, still relentless. But beneath it burned something else. Hunger. A desire he couldn't hold back, no matter how hard he tried. And me? I gave in. Every command I obeyed, every growl I answered with gasps and shudders, every moment of resistance melting into craving. The harder he pushed, the deeper I sank into it, until I didn't know where the fear ended and the desire began. By the time it was over, I was left trembling on the floor of his tent, my body spent, my mind reeling. Rylan stood over me, his chest rising and falling, his eyes still dark and unreadable. He didn't speak. Didn't need to. The weight of what we'd done hung heavy between us. This wasn't punishment anymore. It wasn't just authority and discipline. It was something far more dangerous. Because even as I lay there, shaken and exhausted, one truth burned bright and terrifying inside me. I wanted more. Morning came too quickly. The camp stirred with the usual routine, soldiers sharpening knives, cleaning rifles, boiling weak coffee over the fire. Yet everything felt different. I felt different. I couldn't meet Rylan's eyes. Not after what happened in his tent the night before. My body still ached from his punishment, but the ache wasn't just pain. It was heat, a restless hunger I didn't understand. He didn't look at me either. Not once. He barked orders like usual, voice sharp as steel, but his gaze slid past me as though I didn't exist. And that hurt more than his rough hands ever had. Still, I knew the truth. Something had changed between us. And it scared me more than the enemy's bullets. The day's mission was brutal. We were ordered to push deeper into enemy territory, through a forest thick with mud and fog. Visibility was poor, every sound amplified in the damp air. Rylan led us at the front, silent and steady, his rifle gripped tight. The squad moved like shadows behind him. I stayed close, determined not to repeat my mistake. When the first shots rang out, chaos exploded. Men ducked, cursed, fired back into the trees. I didn't hesitate this time. My rifle kicked against my shoulder, bullet after bullet ripping into the fog. My fear was still there, pounding in my chest, but beneath it burned something sharper, determination. I had something to prove. To him. To myself. At one point, an enemy soldier broke through the mist, charging straight at Rylan with a blade. Without thinking, I swung my rifle like a club, striking the man hard and dropping him before he got close. Rylan's eyes flicked to me. Just for a second. But in that second I saw it, respect. Reluctant, restrained, but real. The battle ended with us bloody but alive. We regrouped, exhausted and filthy, dragging the wounded back toward camp. My arms shook from the strain, but a strange pride steadied me. For once, I hadn't failed. That night, as the men settled into uneasy rest, I felt a hand grip my shoulder. Rylan. He didn't speak, just jerked his head toward the shadows beyond the firelight. My stomach twisted, but I followed. We slipped between the tents, careful not to draw attention, until we reached the edge of camp where the trees loomed dark and heavy. He shoved me against a tree, one hand braced beside my head, his eyes burning into mine. "You fought better today," he said, voice low, rough. No hesitation. "I learned my lesson," I whispered. My breath caught as his hand slid down my chest, not gently, but not cruelly either, just controlled, as if he was holding himself back. His jaw clenched. "This is wrong," he muttered, almost to himself. "You're my soldier. My responsibility." Yet his body pressed closer, heat radiating between us. I didn't stop him. I couldn't. "Then stop," I whispered. "If you mean it, stop." His eyes darkened. He didn't stop. The second time was harsher, riskier, desperate. His hands left bruises on my skin, his growls muffled by the roar of blood in my ears. I tried to hold back the sounds he pulled from me, biting down hard, but he was merciless. At one point, his mouth brushed my ear, his voice a dangerous growl. "If you scream, they'll hear us. Do you want that? Do you want them to know what I'm doing to you?" The thought terrified me. But the thrill of it, the edge of exposure, made my body burn hotter. When it was over, I collapsed against him, my chest heaving. His hand lingered on my neck, not tender, but steady, grounding me. He stayed close for a long moment, then pulled away without a word, leaving me trembling in the shadows. The nights that followed blurred into a dangerous pattern. By day, I was just another soldier under his command. By night, I was something else entirely. His secret, his weakness, his release. Our encounters grew riskier. Sometimes in his tent, sometimes in the dark woods, once even in the ruins of a half-collapsed barn during a mission. Every time, the danger of being caught made it hotter, sharper, more consuming. I should have been afraid. And I was. But I craved it too. The lines blurred quickly. Was he punishing me or wanting me? Was I obeying him because of fear, or because I needed his touch? I didn't know anymore. Then came the whispers. At first, it was nothing more than sidelong glances, soldiers pausing when I walked past, conversations cutting off mid-sentence. Then I overheard it, two men talking near the fire. "Rookies always getting called to the captain's tent," one muttered. "At night." "Punishment, maybe," the other guessed. Something else?" A laugh. But wouldn't put it past him. My stomach turned to ice. If they found out, if they knew, it wouldn't just be humiliation. In this army, in this war, discovery meant disgrace at best. Execution at worst. That night, when Rylan pulled me aside, I almost refused. Almost. But one look at him, his sharp jaw set, his eyes burning with something he couldn't name, and my resolve broke. I heard them talking. I whispered once we were alone. "They're starting to notice." His hands clenched at his sides. His control, usually absolute, cracked for just a moment. "Then we'll be more careful." "You say that every time." His glare snapped to mine, fierce and desperate all at once. "You think I can stop now?" His voice was low, hoarse, shaking in a way I'd never heard before. "You think I want to?" The silence between us burned hotter than fire. For the first time, I realized something terrifying. He wasn't just struggling to control me. He was struggling to control himself. On the battlefield, the change showed too. He still barked orders, still commanded with his usual force, but I caught it. Those fleeting glances, the way his eyes lingered on me a second too long, the way his jaw tightened when I took risks. And I did take risks. More than before. Pushing myself harder, faster, proving I wasn't weak. Every kill, every close call, I could feel his gaze on me. I wanted him to see me. I wanted to make him lose that tight control. Sometimes I thought I succeeded. But the danger grew heavier every day. Whispers spread faster, suspicion thickened like smoke, and the tension between us only tightened. At night, when he growled against my skin, I felt his struggle. The battle between duty and desire, discipline and desperation. and inside me the same war raged. I should have wanted freedom, distance, safety. Instead, I wanted him. Always more. And that, I knew, would destroy us both. The forest was thick with mist, shadows stretching like ghosts between the trees. The squad moved silently, tension high. Orders were given in hushed tones. Every sound, the snapping of a branch, the distant crack of a rifle, could mean death. I stayed close to Rylan, every instinct screaming to stay alert, to keep him safe. The war had hardened me in ways I didn't recognize, but tonight, fear and desire twisted into something sharper. I couldn't let anything happen to him. Not after everything. We had been tasked with securing a critical supply route, one that the enemy had been using to launch surprise attacks. Intelligence suggested a small enemy force lay waiting in the ruined village at the center of the forest. We were walking straight into a trap. I didn't care. I would face it if it meant keeping him alive. Rylan moved ahead, rifle ready, scanning the shadows. He was a perfect soldier, controlled, precise, dangerous. But even he wasn't invincible. Even he wasn't immortal. The first shots rang out before we reached the village. Bullets hissed through the air, and men dropped to the ground with cries of pain. Chaos erupted, thick and terrifying, and for a moment, I froze. Then I saw him. Rylan, caught in the open, a flash of fear crossing his usually unbreakable face. A bullet tore past where his chest would have been, and I lunged forward without thinking, yanking him to cover behind a collapsed wall. "Damn it, rookie," he shouted, voice sharp, but there was no anger in it, only shock, only gratitude. "I'm not letting anything happen to you," I growled back, my heart hammering. The battle stretched on, brutal and unrelenting. We moved as a unit, but the enemy was clever, striking from hidden positions, disappearing into the fog. At one point, Rylan was pinned by sniper fire, trapped behind a broken building. My pulse went wild, every nerve screaming. Without hesitation, I charged, rolling to his side and dragging him out of the line of fire. He was breathing hard, chest rising and falling like a storm, eyes wide and dark. And when our eyes met, I saw something I hadn't dared imagine before, vulnerability. "You're insane," he said, his voice low, almost a growl. "Do you even realize what you just did?" "Yes," I whispered, voice shaking. "And I'd do it again." After the firefight, we were bloodied and exhausted. Men were tending the wounded, medics working tirelessly, and the smell of smoke and gunpowder hung heavy. But for Rylan and me, the danger wasn't over. Every glance, every brush of hands as we moved through the camp reminded us both of the truth. Our bond was forbidden, precarious, and impossible to ignore. That night, alone in a tent too small for two but big enough to trap us together, the tension finally broke. Rylan didn't speak at first. He just stared at me, eyes dark, unreadable, yet burning with emotion. His hands hovered over me, not gentle, not cruel, but deliberate, testing, seeking, claiming. "I almost lost you today," he whispered, voice low and raw. "Do you understand what that does to me?" "I don't care about the rest," I admitted, chest rising and falling fast. "I only care about you." He closed the distance in a heartbeat, mouth capturing mine with a ferocity that left me gasping. His hands were everywhere at once, rough, demanding, yet careful where it mattered. The power struggle we had danced around for weeks collapsed into something primal and unstoppable. Every growl, every whispered command, every desperate motion tore down the walls we had built between fear, respect, and desire. His dominance was absolute, but underneath, there was something else, something tender, protective, and achingly vulnerable. I answered every motion, every growl, with my own hunger. We were reckless because no one could see us, because every second could mean discovery, punishment, or death. And yet, in that danger, every touch was sharper, every gasp more intoxicating. When we finally paused, breathless and trembling, our foreheads pressed together, the reality of what we had done, and what we were, hit me. We can't keep doing this," I whispered, heart pounding in my chest. "If anyone finds out." "I know," he said, voice low, hoarse. But I don't care. I won't let you go. For a long moment, we just held each other, the world outside the tent fading to nothing. The war, the whispers, the danger, all irrelevant as our hearts beat fast and raw against one another. And then the inevitable ache returned. Desire. The fire between us was far from spent. He growled again, low and feral, I should punish you for being reckless today. For making me see you like that, exposed and vulnerable. I want it, I breathed, voice trembling. I want you. It was a confession that changed everything. He didn't hesitate. Every boundary we had known dissolved in an instant, leaving only need, only craving, only the dangerous thrill of wanting each other despite the consequences. Hours later, after we collapsed in a tangle of arms and sweat, we lay together in silence. The danger outside still existed, war had not paused, whispers had not stopped. But for that moment, nothing else mattered. I traced the lines of his face with trembling fingers, memorizing every sharp angle, every shadowed crease. He let me, silent but attentive, as if granting me a piece of himself he had never offered to anyone. Finally he spoke. We can't stay like this forever. But tonight I don't care. I nodded, unable to speak. My mind was too full of fear, desire, and an impossible, breathtaking hope. By dawn, we returned to camp. The world outside resumed its cruel rhythm, soldiers moving, orders shouted, bullets whistling, but between Rylan and me, something had solidified. A bond forged in fire, war, and stolen moments of reckless lust. It was dangerous. It was forbidden. And yet it was real. I didn't know what the future would hold. If anyone discovered us, we would face disgrace, or worse, death. But in that shared glance, that fleeting touch, that stolen moment of raw passion, we understood one truth. Some connections are worth risking everything. And ours burned hotter than any battlefield, sharper than any bullet, more dangerous than any command. Desire. All tangled together, unstoppable and entirely ours.